Reverend, fine and you? That will be your seat today. You will be the first one that I apologize because you were here and approved by the National Assembly by a resolution supported by at least 2/3 of its members. Maybe before we start, can I...
And thank you for the opportunity to appear before General later. Pensions. There was no law there. If they capture you during the night, you were on your own. You couldn't complain to anybody. Even when I arrived at Rustenburg prison after 6 weeks of torture and went to ask for a doctor, I couldn't walk properly. And that doctor said to them, send him to the cell. He will recover. No medication, nothing. And that's the type of law we came from. And so when you look at this white paper on intelligence, it was trying to create a society where no intelligence service or police force or army would do that to anybody. So we're taking away the power of the individual, including that of the state, that the state can't treat citizens in the way in which in NICOC, to which I was invited to serve as Secretary of Cabinet. But I became Secretary of the National Security Council. So I was the convener, both for the officials and for the executive. And we worked on the national intelligence estimates.
Reverend, are you having something that you are reading from?
No, I'm not reading.
Okay.
No, I've got the laws in front of me, that's all. I'm not reading.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got the acts that I'm talking about and the white paper. Maybe it's because I'm a preacher, so I look like too fluent. Yeah, so in a sense, we wanted to create a situation where the security of the people of South Africa is critical. That was really what we were about. And so with what has happened in the country, and I must say I just finished reading the report of the panel that was appointed to deal with the July experience. I just finished it now because you gave me more time to read it. And it was very painful to sit at home for those days, knowing exactly what needed to be done to save the lives of people. You know, the 350 people should not have died. And if we had a system that operated on the basis of the framework we created, it would not happen, because I knew exactly what steps you would take at what point, and I sat there. And fortunately, I've had an opportunity to interact with the president as part of the Church Leaders Forum. So I would like...
2 minutes, Reverend.
Yeah. So I would like to say that what we need is to go back to the drawing boards and make sure that we create an intelligence environment that complies with the Constitution of the country, the laws of the country as they stand. And even if there could be amendments to some of the laws to improve it, but it is critical that you have an IGI who will be objective, respects the law, and make sure that the intelligence environment is recreated to ensure that the people of South Africa's security is guaranteed. I would like just to say that the IGI is your partner, basically, as a parliamentary committee, a partner to the ministers, a partner to the president, does what you won't be able to do. And in my experience in the presidency, the Auditor General would say, I've audited those books, but I have to qualify them because I can't ascertain what happened in this space. And we used to call the Inspector General and say, go to that space. You have the right to access the information, classified details, and be able to assist us to make sure we guarantee what is happening. So the Inspector General is meant to enable. That's why the law is constructed in a way that the Inspector General has got access to all the intelligence, all the information, resources, etc., can go to any place and say, I've come to monitor this, assess this, review, and etc., and so forth. I would stop at that. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend. Some of the questions, some of what you want to say will come from the questions. And where do I start this time? Can I start this side and go?
Thanks very much, Chairperson. Reverend, we have 10 minutes together. This is just a warning that I'd like to get a quick conversation going because I only have 10 minutes with you. The Chairperson should have warned us. So I'm going to clear some few things in a quick way in your biography. Going back to the 1970s, I think, as well as the 1980s, you interacted a lot with the sitting president, President Cyril Ramaphosa. Are you...
Can I correct something? I'm told nobody came in with anything. So, meaning that the referent said he has only the acts and so on. I'm advised even those are not allowed. You only have something to write, otherwise we would be in serious trouble.
Okay. I thought the law, the laws are, a reference, so it's a fine.
Sorry. Chairperson, which rule is that? This is a public interview. I'm not sure. I cannot be a part of...
You see, the problem would be that, can we discuss that next time then? Because if...
Perhaps you should have raised it privately because we might be open to litigation now.
You mean...
Okay.
Can we, the fact that nobody was allowed, whether by mistake or what, I don't think it's for this forum. We will deal with that as a committee.
Okay.
You can continue.
I'm fine. I can't.
Maybe Christmas stopped then.
Can I proceed, Chairperson? Yeah, sure. Yes. Are you friends with the sitting president?
I can't say we are friends now because I've not been able to see him to meet him one-on-one since he became president. But indeed, we come from far. We were students in Soweto. We're part of the youth clubs in Soweto. I was with him at the university for 3 years. So I know him very well, yeah.
Okay. You've been in the leadership of the ANC, including its highest decision-making structure. Has the ANC or him, directly or indirectly, asked you to apply for this position?
Well, I'm not the ANC, brother. The ANC hasn't asked me to do that. The point is I served indeed at the executive committee of the ANC for 10 years, from 1997 to 2007. So I did.
Has the president asked you to apply directly or indirectly? I heard about the NC.
No, the president has not asked me to apply.
Okay.
But there are people who thought I would actually help to, you know.
Are those people in the leadership of the NC?
Well, I'm prepared to declare because the ANC has been my home, so I'm part of the veterans of the ANC. That won't go away, so that's not a problem.
Reverend, I'm sure you appreciate why I asked this question, because the politicization of intelligence services is a very important thing in their compromise. So we really are looking for someone with that independence. So this is your opportunity to ventilate that question so that we don't discriminate on our deliberation. So it's really for you to say, since you've got this access to these veterans, the leadership, you get me?
If you followed me publicly, you would know that I've been the most critical person about what has been happening up to date. Go back to 2015, get my 32-page document by 2016, which is critical about what was happening within the ANC and within the country. And so I did not get into politics because of a party. I went into politics because of the issue of justice, and that for the people. That's what I struggled for. It's for the people. It's not party or interest of some individual. I've been critical about the president himself. He knows that. Yeah.
All right. Democracy campaign.
Yeah.
Fighting for a democracy campaign.
Yeah.
You are part of that together with Adrian Gore, correct?
Well, yeah, with many people.
Yeah, but I'm asking about the CEO of Discovery.
Yeah, they are, well, Defend Our Democracy brings together business, churches, everybody. So we've got the business associations, organizations. There's more than 70 organizations that are.
I mean, Adrian Gore is almost your age, never participated, even at VETS in the struggle, but cares about the saving of this democracy. There are two things that disturb me about him. One, he hosted Tony Blair in 2012 in a leadership summit that Bishop Desmond Tutu withdrew from because of the actions of Tony Blair. He's an all-time visitor at Israel, which basically endorses, in fact, BDS, which you support, has on most cases opposed his visits to Israel. What does it mean that you accept and can sit with him in the same space when he doesn't, I mean, your complicity with him, how can he care about South Africa's democracy but does not care about the democracy of Palestinians, which you care about? What is that? Why shouldn't we be worried about that moral compromise?
Well, you shouldn't worry about it because the Defend Our Democracy, by the way, I called for it. You'll remember I made, in the launch, I talked about the people of South Africa shall be the last line of defense. When everything fails, the parties fail, parliament fails, the people shall. And we called on the people of South Africa. And that's why we've got more than 70 organizations. I don't agree with everybody there at all. I didn't have to exercise that because we said anybody who is concerned about what's happening in this country.
So even people who support the state of Israel, who host Tony Blair, you don't mind as long as they support your project?
No, I'm against people. I mean, you know that I'm against the oppression of Palestinians. I'm very passionate about it. But when you call the people of South Africa to come together, you don't bring everybody who agrees with you there. So I don't have to, I differ with lots of them. But the country is critical, and if we can stop the destabilization of this country together, It doesn't matter whether I agree with you or not. You know, my position is clear. I used to say to people, when there's an emergency, you know, these conservative Christians who think others don't matter except themselves. I say, when there's an emergency, you deal with the crisis and ask about people's faith after, because you've got a crisis there, and that's my view. My view is this country is at risk, and all the people of South Africa must be called to make sure.
Two final questions. You say earlier on that the security systems fell apart in relation to the laws that your collective in post-1994 worked on,
Yeah.
and something of the release Zuma riots would have not happened.
3 minutes.
Yeah, something like the Zuma riots would have not happened
Yeah.
had those systems not fell apart.
Yeah.
But your government, when you were the Director General, also had the 2008 xenophobic violence attacks,
Yeah.
in which there were terrible intelligence failures.
Yeah.
Is it really the failure of the laws, or there is something deeper?
No, it's not the failure of the laws. It's failure of human beings who are supposed to make sure that the laws are complied with. But in terms of the July matter, it's different. This is politicization of intelligence and redesigning it, because the first thing, by the way, which surprised me, it's when somebody said, after the 2009 government I put in place, I helped them to swear them in. And somebody said, no, we must move back to generals rather than, you know, this police service. That told me something is going wrong, because we deliberately made a decision against that. And then in terms of national security, we said national security and not the security of the state. And so I believe it's people who change or work on the basis of no respect for the law. And when you read the panel, the panel that was set up to deal with intelligence failures there, led by Dr. Sigdi Mufabade, it's very clear, I've just gone through it again, that people had no respect for the law, no respect for the Constitution, and that's why you end up with a crisis. We need people who are committed to make sure that framework which was established to prevent this stands. You can modify it, improve it. That's okay.
Your time is up. I can give you a minute.
Thank you. Reverend, lots of people have testified to the effect that the politicization of the intelligence services actually happened in its heightened form to the conference of 2007 in the ANC. There are people who have testified to have been spying on politicians already at that time. So that it's not true that it's an occurrence of today or of the Zuma administration. And I give evidence with the 2008 falling apart. So returning the structure of intelligence that was there before, it's an opportunity for you to say something much deeper, because the problems of intelligence that we are talking about, of their politicization, its factionalization, people testified that they go. And one of the big things is the drive towards the 2007 conference. But I'm giving you something even more, the 2008 xenophobic violence attacks, which by definition, intelligence failed as well there.
Yeah. No, can I just clarify this matter? I don't want to bring the Zuma issue into the equation. I'm sure many people would have heard me. I've said corruption started before Zuma. I've said so. Former President Zuma. I'm the person who wrote a letter to Madiba 2 years after I went in there and said the old is corrupting the new as an insurance for them not to be charged. That letter is there with Mandela. I've not said that failures are related to a particular person. I'm saying failures are related to people who have no respect for the Constitution and the law. And once they don't respect the law, they do whatever they want to do, and that's what we need to stop. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Can I, in that order, Honorable Magwanisa?
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good evening again, Reverend.
Your mic, Reverend?
I must switch it on.
Yeah, if somebody else is talking.
Reverend, what is the effect of Chapter 3 of the Constitution on the work of the IGI, that is cooperative governance?
I can only talk, I'm not sure what your question means. I can only talk about the way in which I understand the system. That in terms of corporate governance, there is cooperation from top to bottom. There's 3 spheres of government. And when you deal with intelligence, you also deal with the 3 spheres of government. Now, in those spheres, you've got the police, but you don't have the military because they operate at a national level, and the national intelligence in terms of civilian intelligence operate at a national level, but they work with the provinces and the local government. When I was chair of City Power, I arrived there and said, this must be a strategic facility. You know, have you vetted everybody who works here? Have you vetted the board? Have you vetted? And so we had to invite the regional intelligence chief who dealt with Gauteng to assist us to deal with that. But you could see before I arrived there that they had not thought about it. I said, but if somebody interferes with the city power, the whole Johannesburg gets affected. And so there's cooperation across the board, and I know that the intelligence services have got regional structures and local structures, but they are not established as provincial entities. But there should be coordination through the president with the premiers, and we set up that forum which brought together the premiers and the president to work on that.
Thank you very much. One can say that you were part of these structures and the laws that were passed during that time. And a lot has passed between that time and now. What is it that you are proposing that you will do it differently? What is your value proposition now, given the challenges that we have?
Well, my role then was not really as an intelligence officer or the IGI, but I worked with them. But if I was appointed an IGI, I would make sure that firstly, the gaps in the law which are identified in all these reports that have been produced get plugged in so that it's tightened up. The regulations get put in place, because I'm actually surprised when I read the laws and found that some of the regulations are not in place, but the legislation is there. So you will have to fix that. You would have to then restructure intelligence in a way. I mean, I'm so shocked that the more I read about it, it shocks me that the whole intelligence, the civil intelligence, civilian intelligence, has got acting heads, you know, and the intelligence services of the police, it's all acting. There's something wrong about it and needs to be fixed. And I would assist in making sure that that which is wrong is fixed, and I could go through those reports to talk about it. Yeah.
Lastly, Reverend, having read the white paper, don't you find it odd that we still have a Department of State Security, SSA, called State Security?
That's why I agree with the panel report on this matter. I think something went wrong, because once you change it from national intelligence to state security agency, you are going back to state security rather than people security. And state security could end up being the people who are in the state, and could end up being the president himself, and individuals whose security is guaranteed. And what we created was such that it would be a country where the security of the people, including economic, and I want to emphasize that because the July experience tells you it's two-dimensional. You have, for intelligence should be advising the leadership to say, unless you resolve the social conditions of the people, you will not be able to guarantee the security of this country. And if we have got so many young people unemployed, they will destroy everything. And those who have will not have it. So when we talked about national security and national interest, it was about that, not security of the state against the people.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, my Honorable Stebe.
Thank you, Chair. Reverend, I'm impressed on your history, where you started, and it's, to me, I can see that you said here you had the experience while Director General. You work with all the heads of all the intelligence community, and that's fine. You were out for a long while. You weren't in the thick of things. But if you will say you become the next IG, Inspector General, will you seriously reconsider to look at legislation pertaining oversight? And if we can enhance it, or if we can put things in place to because this Oversight Act is not a new act, and it needs to be a relook. Will you be able to give positive inputs to see that we can get a better act?
Yeah, I would definitely participate in that process. Obviously, it's the executive and parliament that works on the legislation, but the IGI should be able to advise in that regard. Indeed, even the white paper needs to be reviewed. I mean, it's the language is old and etc. Some of the laws also need to be reviewed. I would do a review of the whole package. But let me just say one thing, that what shocked me most when I read these reports is that even with good laws, people can act in a way that's completely destructive. And that's the problem. For instance, my view is that the Oversight Committee of Parliament should have intervened in many things that were happening in the last few years. The IGI should have, the executive should have. The laws are there, but it went wrong. And then when I read the reports, Chair, what shocks me even more is that the recommendations are made, no action is taken. And so my worry is, and if I was appointed IG, is that the IG's reports, most of them have been able to refer to are not acted upon in terms of reports. And so the IG makes recommendations, but somebody has to act on those recommendations. And that's where the challenge is for me. You need an oversight committee which, if it receives the report, would say we must implement those recommendations. And the ministers must account to the oversight committee about the implementation. Even the president must be made to account about it. And if there's a proposal for amendment, we should be able to say amend rather than talk about it and then it doesn't happen. So I'm worried about what I've read. I didn't go into details before, but the panel's report was 2018. The recommendations are there, and we should have acted on those recommendations.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mima.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, Reverend.
Good evening, sir.
My take with you, Reverend, relates to the issue of politicization of the intelligence that was raised by Honorable Ndlozi. But my angle is different. It's not from Zuma. Yes, my angle of politicization relates to the impact of the National Strategic Intelligence Act and its impact in terms of the role that it gave the minister to oversee the whole functioning of the service. There is a proposition that part of the weakening of the oversight function relates to blurring of the administration and the executive authority, in the sense that if you were listening attentively to what was presented at Zondo Commission, it was particularly the IGI and also Chapter, the former acting DG. The issue that the IGI raised, he spoke about executive outreach in matters of administration. That has to be corrected so that we are then able to enable the oversight bodies to do their work. But of course, what is quite critical is the political architecture of our country. So therefore, hence the question is, given the challenges that we are facing around what was said by the IGI at Zondo Commission, there are a number of areas that he raised. So I just want to get a sense from the Reverend as to whether what will be his response around the challenge that the very same body that must exercise oversight over the SSA or the State Security Agency get its budget from the minister. The fact that the DG then had the audacity to withdraw the top clearance security of the IGI it's a challenge. What is the reference to you with regard to that?
Well, I must start from history that I think we should accept that when 94 came, because ministers came in an administration that was led by those who led it before 1994. What happened, and I was there, I joined them later. Ministers brought in advisors and pushed for influence in terms of running the civil service. But then you're talking about overreach. But then once we transformed the system, we didn't actually review that position. And we continued along that route, which then results in this thing about executive overreach, where they go where actually the officials should be led to do the work rather than the political class. But that overreach, it's elaborated on. It's more if illegality comes into the picture, which makes it worse. But in terms of the location of the IGI office, it was strange even for me during that time. I mean, the issue about NICOC, for instance, which was NICOC for everybody but based in national intelligence. The IGI also, I'm sure it was the easiest way to do it at the beginning. But that creates a problem. So you need some independence, but you need to make sure that people who work with the IGI are trusted by the intelligence community. Otherwise, you would not be able to execute your responsibility. So I would agree that there must be some form of restructuring in a way that will give the intelligence inspector for intelligence have some independence, but still reports. Remember, the structure is account to the joint, the Joint Committee on Intelligence, and responsible to the president and responsible to the ministers. So there's still a relationship between.
Thank you, Reverend. The last point from my side, the Chapter 9 bodies, whether it is the Public Protector and the IPIT, to a larger degree because of the nature of the IGI's office, has collaborated and cooperated in the past in the form of memorandum of understanding. However, there are instances where, by virtue of what the IGI could do and what the IPIT couldn't do, they would ride on the back of the IGI's access to intelligence to get an information that they are not allowed to get it because of the secret nature of that information. The second point relates to where the Public Protector, by virtue of the relationship that he has with IPIT, with the IGI, you will remember the former IGI's report on the investigation of SARS. That report was completed in 2014. Hence the issues around the rogue unit. But surprisingly enough, that report was used in 2019, where by the Public Protector, where the remedial action was expected from the president just before he announced his cabinet. Do you think there is a need to relook at those relationships under cooperative governance? Thank you.
I suspect the problem, it's about the human beings who are involved. The law is clear I mean, if the public protector is dealing with, say, misuse of resources of the state which are related to the intelligence services, I'm making an example. The public protector has a limitation about how far they can go, but the IGI can. But the IGI reports in a different way, and when the IGI reports, the sensitive information gets protected, and the Lord says so. And so it's a matter of how people handle the way they do their trade. The IGI deals mainly with the 3 intelligence services, but the Auditor General would have a say in what the intelligence services do. The other entities would. But the IGI is the one who, in confidence, can go in and test the facts and report to who the IGI reports to. Doesn't report to the public protector or somebody else. And that information, if required by the public protector, will be packaged in a way that befits that purpose. I mean, let me make an example of my role, where I'm asked as Secretary of Cabinet. They want the minutes of Cabinet on a particular decision in court. And I say, no, I can't give you classified information. But I can give you the decision of Cabinet, as Secretary of Cabinet, but I do it with the consent of the President. And so it's a matter of how you handle it, rather than find yourself caught up in releasing information that you shouldn't.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hadebe with an H.
With an H, okay.
No, thanks, Chair. Indeed, Reverend, there are serious challenges in the state security agencies. And in terms of the high-level review panel report, it has identified that there are several findings or recommendations made by the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence.
Honorable Miman, you.
And to date, those remain unattended. So if you were to be appointed, you will be entering into a space where there are legacy issues. Just to mention but few, the then IGI says there is a culture of non-accountability in the state security agencies, and that has not been addressed. 2, he says there's continued politicization of the state security agency, and that remains a problem. He further on goes to say the intelligence and counterintelligence activities at provincial level have been seriously compromised by the lack of dedicated human capacity in strategic areas. All these issues, the panel says, they render the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence useless. Now, what changes are you going to bring to restore the dignity of the Office of the Inspector General? And in an event where these issues continue unabated, what recourse do you think you will have if the services continue to ignore your recommendation? We want someone to change the status quo.
Yeah.
We want someone that will be able to give us hope. Indeed, what transpired in July shouldn't have happened. It could have been avoided. We cannot continue with hope. I said the other time, failure and an attempt to continue to change does not assist if all what you do is consistent failure. So in essence, keep on trying.
Can you repeat that?
The essence is continuous failure. There's a saying that continuous trying, yet all what you do is constant failure. It's a futile exercise. So we don't want to continuously trying to incorporate or appoint people with the hope that things will change, yet all what they do is the constant failure. So tell us, give us hope that you'll do things different, and what is the recourse in an event that the status quo remains? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say that one thing I don't do in life is to stay even when you can't change anything. So I'm not looking for a job, to go and sit there and earn a salary. I've said to people, I'll only go back to government if I can make a difference. And so I'm expecting that this oversight committee, it's going to be my partner if I get appointed, and that we're going to work together to make sure there is no failure, because this committee is critical in this equation. Secondly, I'm expecting that the president would understand, if I'm appointed, that I will not go there just to make people feel good. I'm going to go there and effect the changes that are necessary. And at times, it's also about your style and influence. I went to the presidency, they had qualified accounts and all that. And I said, we can't have qualified accounts of the presidency. How do you lead the government if you've got qualified accounts? We're going to have clean audits, and nobody in the presidency will be appointed to come and park there and earn a salary. You go there to do the work. If you can't, you are out. Even if you have a name that's respected, or a child of somebody with a name, we send you away in the presidency if you don't do the job. So I think at times change goes with the person in office, that you motivate the staff. I'll create a relationship. Fortunately, most of them will be new in the job because they are acting. I hope they will all be appointed. They will all be appointed now. They will be fresh, and I will go there and say, colleagues, we're going to have to change this. And those, of course, who are heads of the police and the military, the defense, I would have to visit them and say, I'm here, and I can only be here if we're going to change. I'm not going to be here just to be having a job. And I think if you give me a chance, let's see what happens. And I think within a year or two, you will see the difference in the process, in my view. But of course, it's up to you to make that decision.
Chair, I'm covered. Haile.
Honorable Marikhal.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. On my script, I drafted questions that are covered by the Honorable Mimang and the Honorable Hadebe with an H. But what I want to say to the Reverend is that with the determination that I hear mentioning that you're having, that you are ready to make a difference. You are ready to see change. I will request that you make sure that you stop corruption. Just make sure that you assist this country. I know, Chairperson, am I covered? Ndlozi is disturbing me. Honorable Ndlozi.
I'm wearing a mask.
But the voice is coming out of that mask.
I think he must be lynched.
I must be.
He must be lynched, but you are protected. Continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. So, well, Ndlozi undistebile. But anyhow,
Asking the reverend to stop corruption.
but in
That was what
yeah, I actually, it's a request that you make sure that corruption stops. It doesn't continue. It's not good for our country, and actually, the way dilo di diragang ka ona. In case you manage and you win, I have hope. I know that people like you, if things are tough, they know where to run to. You'll run to God, and God will, at the end of the day, listen to your request or your prayers.
I don't think that is a fair comment. We've got a lot of communists in here.
Well, that's my comment, Chair. That's my comment, and I hope it will work for me and this country. That's my belief.
Well, can I just say there to say in my 2 hours meeting with Comrade Slovo when he came from exile, we agreed that we have got a common objective and we have different reference points but common objective, and we'll achieve what we want. No, ma'am, let me just say, the most dangerous person in government, it's a corrupt intelligence officer. You see, if you are an intelligence officer, trust is that when we give you money and you have to make sure it can't be traced, you then don't help yourself to that money, and if corruption goes to intelligence, we finished, because the information gets corrupted, the system gets corrupted. After the July event, one former informer person was used by the police and ran away because he thought he would be killed. He discovered that the money they were giving him, it's many times less than what the books say he should get. Now, if you have an intelligence officer like that, you are in trouble. You're dead, basically. You can't trust them. So we have to, and the white paper deals with that because it did not assume we are bringing clean people. Remember, it was a merger, bringing all the intelligence services. They were supposed to be educated about this new philosophy, which is in the white paper. I don't think we did enough. I think we need to have the school on intelligence. That academy should take July 2021 as a case study and say, what would you have done if, here's a case study, so that people learn. And then you can't have 17 million disappearing in an intelligence headquarters. And then they've got the information, they've got the videos, but they stop the investigation because somebody said you can't do it. Now, once you've got a police force and intelligence that stops at that, then you've got a problem. And the people lose confidence. I mean, I hear people, because they think I'm still government. You never end being government. When they meet me, they say, Reverend, how can you lose 17 million in an intelligence headquarters? So I agree with you. it's going to be critical. We can't have those types of people in the intelligence services.
I think there's something unruly here. You can conclude.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. I am happy. I'm so happy and I'm touched. I don't think I need to continue with these other questions. Yeah, I'm touched. Actually, I'm blessed. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you very much. Sorry about this. Honorable Madhagude?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good evening, Reverend. Reverend, I was listening to you attentively when you gave us information about yourself and what you stand for. So, as this committee of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, we are not political when we deal with the issues of national security, because we understand that it's not about us, but about the country as a whole. And it's important that we work together to make sure that things are done by the book, and those who are found to be on the wrong side of the law must face the music. Unfortunately, that is our wish list. So if those who are supposed to act on those issues are not doing it, then there's nothing more we can do. Sitting here, there are many reports which were supposed to have been presented to us with regard to that 17 million that you are referring to from the headquarters and many other things. To date, we haven't received that. Reverend, the high-level panel report agreed with the report of the 2006 task team on reviewing of the legislations, intelligence legislations, the regulations, and also the policies. And the Matthews Commission report that the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence must be given an independent status. It must have its own administration and budget. Then what is your view on this matter? And if appointed the IGI for the next 5 years, how would you go about ensuring that this office attains its independence? Thank you, Chairperson.
If I was appointed, the first thing I would do within their current legislation, because you won't change it overnight, the first thing I would do is to make sure that office acts independently in a collaborative way, but being firm, fair, and without fear. It's important because you could create that environment. But indeed, you'll have to then look at the legislation. Now, obviously, it will be a bit of a challenge when you are an IGI to campaign for your own independence and craft laws for yourself. You could be misunderstood. And I would expect that the oversight committee and the president and his ministers would agree that that be done, because it's already there, it's recommended, and we just need to get it done. It's like this issue about separating foreign intelligence, national intelligence, it's there. Undoing the SSA, the way it's structured, it's there. So I would expect that everybody will work together. After the experience we've had, it's a nightmare. We don't want to go through that nightmare again. And so it's time for us to fix it. But the beginning for me would be to share my views with everybody who's involved, and that I have to act in an independent way, be fair and without fear. But make sure that you don't alienate people. You don't change by alienating them, but you change by winning them on your side to make sure they do what is correct.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you.
I'm still on my question. I'm not done yet. Thank you, Chair. Reverend, thanks for that response. Section 14, subsection 1A and B of the powers, privileges, immunities of Parliament and provincial legislatures provides for the joint committee to summon any person to come before it, to appear before it and give evidence or reports under oath or any information that it might have, the person might have. What is your understanding of Section 14 of the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament and provincial legislatures? Thank you.
Mic, Reverend? Your mic.
Yeah. So I can't refer to the Act because I don't have it in front of me. But are you talking about the question? I just want to understand the question. The powers and immunities. Indeed, if you spoke in Parliament, you know, there are certain things that you can say which parliamentary setting allows you to say that, which if you said outside, you would be charged actually for what you've said. But I don't think that protects anybody from appearing before, say, this committee. If this committee would want a member of Parliament to appear here, they will have to appear here. Even if it's a minister, they will have to appear here. You have more powers in summoning people to come here. I read for the IG, you can't, force them. You interact unless if they're outside the agencies that you are dealing with. But I don't think one would have an immunity. I have said that, and I'm going to the intelligence environment. You can't classify corruption. You know, you can't say I'm going to be corrupt and classify that. You can't investigate that. You can't do it. So you can't create a buffer using the laws to do illegal things. You know, once you do an illegal thing, you lose the right, in a sense, in that way. But as you know, in terms of the Act.
Does the Reverend have some water there?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. So if you can't use the law to cover up your misdemeanors. So I'm not sure I understood the question. I can look at the law, but that's what I would say.
Thanks, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Reverend. You have responded to my question well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kola Barnett?
Good evening, Reverend. Reverend, could you spell out for us the various functions that the President may, according to the legislation, designate to the IGI? In which case, who exactly does that report go to? To the President or to this committee? And if it's to the President and not the committee, do you believe that there are certain IGI functions you do not have to report on to us in terms of the committee?
Let me say that, firstly, I struggled a little bit with that particular section. Now, I can't, I didn't cram it and give you which section it is. But if I had the law in front of me, I'll pick it up. Because it does say when the president designates you to do something, you report to him. You know, it's the way it's structured. And I wondered, what are the things that the president would say you should do? Firstly, it can't be illegal. So the president can ask me to do anything that is illegal, and the Constitution protects me from anybody giving me orders that are unconstitutional, illegal. I would imagine the president would have issues at a high intelligence level he wants the IGI to assist to deal with, and will report to the president. If you asked me to come and report here, I would design a report. I checked. I mean, you report about your functions from monitoring, review, you know, those sections to the committee. You can't say this does not, I don't report to the committee, but you don't then put the details about sections that are, there are limitations of what you can say here in terms of those reports. So those aspects of like, which I had to deal with one of the cases where the Scorpions, it wasn't Hawks at that time, wanted to gain access to source, you know, files where you put information that's not processed. Now, that's going far in terms of intelligence because there could be lots of false things in those files about people, etc. You need to analyze, and by the time I come to this committee, I can report to you about what happened in July without giving the details of the sources and the people intelligence collect that information from. So there's a limitation, but it doesn't limit me reporting.
Thank you very much. If the Office of the IGI issues instructions on how to resolve a particular issue, and the three services and the three ministers don't feel obliged to actually go through the process that the IGI has outlined, what would be the plan, your plan, to lead to a stage where you can actually enforce the recommendations be implemented?
Again, that's one of the areas that I have a problem with. I mean, I had to reread the Mufamadi panel report again and their recommendations. And they are still saying the Inspector General can recommend, but it's not like public protectors type of finding, and therefore can only recommend for other people to do something. I can't enforce it. But my view is that if we worked together with this oversight committee, we can make sure the people who must act on those issues act on them. Part of the problem is if people are compromised, they will not implement because they are affected. They are interested parties. There's conflict of interest, in fact. You can't ask the same person you are investigating to make a decision. Even if it is the president, let me put it back to your original question. If the president is affected, how do you deal with it as an intelligence officer? And the white paper refers to an effective intelligence. It's one that will tell the government not what they want to hear, but what they need to know. And even if it affects the president, you must be ready to lose your job. And I think that's the type of intelligence operation one is looking for. Sorry, Chair, I must make an example about, this thing about if the minister gives you an instruction and you think it's irregular, ask the minister to put it in writing. And I did that. I was the chief of, the DGs. We had a forum. So they came to me. And all those who asked me, I said to them, legally you have to do that. You don't have a choice. But you may as well as prepare and look for a job. Because that stand will cost you a job. And 5 of the DGs lost their jobs because of that during my time. So just to go back to that question, the problem is not just later only. We had problems even during my time. So that's my view, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the IGI's access to intelligence information or premises. Does, in your opinion, the IGI have access to all COVID intelligence information or premises? If so, would you bring that report of such visits to the attention of our committee, whether or not it contained information which may not be released in terms of Section 78B3 of the Intelligence Services Oversight Act?
And report that I've done it, but I can't give the details. I can give you an example that we had intelligence that there are certain business people who are blacking in on certain ministers during my time. We monitor that because it's a risk, national security risk for a minister who gets compromised by business. And I went to the president and said, President, our intelligence tells us Minister X, Y, Z. And unfortunately, the president said, go and talk to them. So I had to go and talk to them and say, there's this business person who visits you. These are the implications of what that means. And that's a responsibility. But when I come to report here, I will not give the details about what was the source I can report that we made sure that ministers are not compromised. I would have referred, Chair, to that section which deals with, I was quite surprised when I reread it, where people get compromised, either once a politician makes himself, herself vulnerable by taking money from people they should not have, or be made to participate in what they shouldn't do, they become a national security risk. You see, that's the learning I had before 94, say, in terms of how we protected ourselves from apartheid intelligence services, which will look at your accounts, your private life, and all that to compromise you. And so we used to be told, make sure you don't find yourself in a compromised position. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. How many minutes do we have? 15 for follow-up. Honorable Dr. Ndlozi.
Merci. Reverend, 4 areas which I'm going to be crisp about, which have to help me in deliberation. First one, very controversial issue in relation to President Zuma's former wife, well, departed wife, and the suicide letter. Did you or did you not leak the letter to the media? It has to do with your reliability with protecting information that is personal. Clear yourself in that regard. That's the first one. I have to put them all. Nature person? Yeah. So maybe you want to write, Rev. That's the first one. The second one relates to leading to the 2002 conference. Your principal, President Mbeki, instructed Jackie Slebe, who was the Minister of Police, and Steve Chwete at the time, who was State Secretary, to investigate the sitting president, Ramaphosa, Tokyo Skhwale, and Matthews Posa, that they were engaged in a plot to endanger his life and so on and so forth, because perhaps they wanted to be presidents. Many people say that was an abuse of power for him to instruct state institutions to go investigate those comrades who were potential contenders, even in his admission for the 2002 conference. Do you agree that was an abuse of power? If you were the IGI and you were handling such a case, what would be your reaction? And then, veterans, earlier on you said you were willing to come clean, on which veterans might have motivated you or spoken to you to apply for this position. The veterans of the ANC, please could you tell us who those veterans are by name? Finally, I am of the view that there is recycling in relation to your name. You've been around. You are past 70. What would we say to people who say you are bringing us the old crocs who have been in the system? They may not help to fix it. What would be your reaction to that? Particularly because the biggest challenges at the moment in relation to the intelligence community relate to the 4th Industrial Revolution. Things have changed. Cyber security, the cyber tools the IGI must have for oversight. People might say, why bring him back? He's been in the system, he's old. You are recycling because you don't have talent. Thank you very much.
Before you answer, I don't think you need to come up with the names here. I don't think it's a decent thing to do.
Yeah.
The answer you gave, I think it's enough in relation to only that question.
Okay.
Point of order. Point of order, Chairperson. Point of order. We're in a public platform. The rules of parliament apply. When you make a ruling, you must be consistent with the rules. What rule says the candidate if they choose to... I mean, it must be his prerogative, not yours. If he chooses to come out clean, let it be. Don't make a ruling that is not consistent with the rules. We're suffering serious confidence questions in the public about protecting information. If Reverend Chigani wants to tell us, give him an opportunity to do so.
Point taken.
You are doing this for the second time and it's wrong.
Point taken. All I said is he's not forced to
You said you think he must not do it.
No.
So I'm cautioning you, be consistent with parliament rules.
Correct.
Thank you.
Point taken.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Thank you. I would like to start.
Okay, before you go, just take all the questions.
If you make notes, we just do all the follow-ups and then you address it one time. the Zondo Commission saw the then Minister of State Security attempt to forbid the acting head of State Security from giving evidence, and that attempt failed, went to court and failed, and indeed attempted to stop the IGI from giving evidence. They'd both been subpoenaed. Would you have backed off with a ministerial instruction, or would you have given evidence at the Commission? Now, moving on to the actual role of the IGI, it makes you incredibly unpopular. It's an adversarial relationship. The three ministers, from what I've seen, usually end up disliking you intensely. The three DGs, they're all trying to protect their own units, which you now have to go and do oversight over. So how will you deal with the inevitable attacks? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the various things that have been done to the current IGI. How would you deal with that, the aggression that comes with the position? And I think let's look at the leaks to the newspapers. They've been going on for some 2 years. You've never seen state security on the front pages as much as you have over the past 2 years, week after week after week. Now, have those revelations damaged the three entities, state security, defense, crime intelligence, or have they enhanced transparency? What's your take on that?
Leaks.
The leaks
from
within
yeah.
to the newspapers.
Any other follow-up, Honorable Mima?
Thank you, Chairperson. Just one follow-up question from myself. Around 2005-2006, Reverend, Project Avani, I want to believe that it might be familiar with you. Could you just probably make a reflection on this project and the work that the intelligence did on this project to clearly delineate areas that falls under legitimate intelligence gathering and the abuse of the intelligence gathering that was identified by the IGI then in relation to the use of Project Avani to advantage contenders in the battle. Thank you.
Any other follow-up? Over to you, Reverend, and Honorable Mimang, you, Mike.
Yeah, Chair, I appreciate the fact that you don't have enough time, so I'm going to be as brief as I can. On the project Abani, I don't remember the details, but you find the same referred to in that panel report as well. It is totally unconstitutional and illegal. You can't use intelligence to promote a party, even if it's yours, you love it, but it's illegal. And you can't use intelligence to promote contenders within a party. The law is very clear. It outlaws that completely. The white paper says so as well. So the sooner we get intelligence officers to understand that, the better. And I would like to take it to the second question Honorable Ndlozi about, that Ramaphosa, Matthews, and Posa. I mean, I was there, and I heard about it. I mean, there was nothing official that was happening in the office. It happened outside there. And you had these peddlers of information. We had lots of that stuff coming through from mailing and all that. And you can't act on information that has not been tested. And when I got to know about it, I said, but have you tested it? You know what I'm talking about. Where is the intelligence? What's the story? And you found that it is a story from somebody from Mpumalanga or something like that. I mean, it was wrong. Whether there was an abuse of power, I've not investigated who was doing what at that time, because it happened outside. It wasn't actually happening within the government. So, but whatever the case, anybody would use intelligence to stop somebody becoming a president. It's violating the law and against the Constitution. On the leaks, ma'am, I would, Honorable Kola Barnett, you can't have leaks from the intelligence services. It's just not on. There are procedures to deal with abuse or corruption. There are processes. And so once you end up having leaks from intelligence services, then you are in trouble, because people who give you information will feel that they are vulnerable. And remember also the sharing of information between intelligence services with other countries. So if you are given intelligence services and you reveal the sources, you make the people who give the information vulnerable. But there's a way of dealing with it. Within the intelligence services into the IGI, you can complain to the IGI and give the IGI information. And the IGI would deal with it in terms of the law. That's all I can say about that particular matter. The becoming unpopular in attacks, I think I've experienced this. I don't work on the basis of popularity. Fortunately, I never got into politics for being elected and therefore compromise everything about your life for the sake of a position. My stance has been very clear. If something is wrong, it is wrong. And it doesn't become right because you are my friend, or you are my comrade. Even if you are my comrade, if it's wrong, it is wrong. And so, no, I would not. I definitely will be unpopular, but I would be happy to be unpopular because of corrupt people. Even if they throw me out, I will go out clean because I've stood for the truth and the Constitution. The issue about the Zondo Commission, who asked about it, it was whether or not, what would I have done? I read it again, about that, and the law is very clear. I can only make an example of what I had to do. The court, unfortunately, it had to do with the Zuma case. The court wanted minutes of cabinet that this decision was made. There's nothing secret about the decision, but it's the minutes. And and it will answer partly Honorable Ndlozi's question. When I was asked, the court said we want an affidavit from the Secretary of Cabinet. And I did that affidavit. You remember the case was moved away from the Constitutional Court back to the Appeal Court. And then somebody in the leadership came and said to me, you can't submit that affidavit. And please don't ask me who that person is. And then I went, the president was President Motlanthe. I went to him and said, President, I have a task as Secretary of Cabinet, and my job is to do an affidavit. You know what I'm talking about? It's my job. If somebody says, you as the president are the only one who can instruct me to not to do that, but you'll have to give me a reason why I shouldn't. And it has to be within the law. And he was leaving for Latin America, and he said to me as he sat on his chair in the car, Reverend, do the right thing. And I went to do the right thing. And I paid a price for that because there were very angry people because I did that. And so it would, for me, the law is very clear. You would consult with the minister and the president. But the two of them say they did so. You know what I'm talking about? They did so. But somebody says they didn't. Now, I can't judge, but I would say ultimately, the president is the ultimate. If the president said yes, I'll do it. If it's the right thing to do. By the way, I won't do something that's not right just because I want to. Ntate Ndlozi, the recycling that I would like to challenge you that we walk in the morning. So so I'm not being recycled. I said, people who asked me to come back to government, I said, no, I won't come back to government. The only time I will come back is if I'm needed and if there's a task to be done, and I'll go and do it. So if the committee thinks I'm the right person to do it, I'll go and do it. But I'm not looking for a job. So it's not like I'm in trouble. I'm not in trouble, actually. And so it will be a task I have to do because the nation thinks that I can help. If the nation doesn't need it, I'm fine because it's not as, actually I don't want to compete with other people. I think it will be if you think we should do it. On the first question about Zuma, what was it about? About Zuma.
Just clarify that, Honorable Ndlozi.
The suicide letter of, yes, the departed wife.
Thank you. No, Ntate Ndlozi, I've written about it, I've done press conferences about it, it's on record. There was no leaked document. You know, President Zuma, it's historically a friend of the family. When I looked for my brother, who was away in exile for more than 10 years, and we couldn't find them because I was under surveillance. When I became General Secretary, I said to the organization, I want to see my brother. The person who brought my brother is Comrade Zuma in Harare. And when Komati happened, they removed him and my brother was infiltrated in. So we don't have an enemy relationship. The reality is, Chair, if I can say it again, the reality is Mama Kate decided to commit suicide, but called me before she died. And I said, I'm in a meeting, I will come in there during lunch. She said, you'll find me dead. So I stopped the meeting and went there. And she got the child to pull out the suicide note to give it to me. And now the police investigate. You can't hide a suicide note. So, and they were investigating the Deputy President Zuma. So I said to him, comrade, why do you let the police investigate? I mean, this is a suicide case. Let's give them the letter. I got it, and there are witnesses when I got it, so it's not secret. And so we agreed, and so I did. There was no leaked letter. Then, because you do a post-mortem, that letter will be part of the documents. Then it goes public. And those who want to campaign against you say you leaked a document. How do you leak a document through an inquest? And so, as you know, the son tried to get into this thing. And you remember my answer? Ask your father. Because your father knows exactly what happened. So, and in the funeral, I didn't give details because I couldn't. But I had the suicide note. So this is a sensitive matter that's so painful. It's so painful, and it gets repeated all over again when you are past it. But we just resuscitating it, it causes pain for the children, even those who are too young, to talk about it. But Markate chose to give me the note, and he sent the son to pull it out of the drawer to give it to me. And she was not alive by the time she reached the hospital. On the issue of veterans, not that it won't help you at all. I talk to veterans, we consult, and I don't think names would matter in this regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We are 10 minutes over the time. Reverend, the very last thing. You comment on the whole process. If you need to say something to the panel about the whole process, it's your time now.
Chair, I'm okay because I can't go and complain about this process. So I won't cause you trouble. I deal with hard things in life, so it's not for me an issue. I just want to say, Chair, even one of my sons said to me, Dad, why do you want to get yourself into this? And I said that if it will save the nation, I'll do it. Because I think if anybody has missed the point that we are at a critical stage in the life of this country, then you'll wake up one day and find that we are all on the run. Because, Chair, if you can allow me, when I read that change of moving away from a democratic constitutional state democracy to a security of the state, which then retools intelligence officers to serve interest of individuals. We are back to the apartheid days, because that's really the system that we fought against. And so that's all I would like to say. I'm here and available to serve. If the committee decides otherwise, I'm happy because I continue with my life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we can release the Reverend. Do we have any announcement? 9 o'clock tomorrow. And not 8, 9 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock went through. So I think we can...
I can go ahead away with my page.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
My training of intelligence is that I don't leave notes in a meeting because the secrets will be known.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the panel is adjourned. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Reverend.